Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you, this time talking episode 3 of season 5 of Arrow, A Matter of Trust. And I like this episode quite a bit. There's a pretty good amount of stuff going on, there's nice little moments for everybody, and things move forward in some interesting ways. We get introduced to some new characters, some things even come to a head a little bit. I mean, all around, it's a really solid episode. Now, first things first. Now, this episode does come with a bit of a shtick. That being that wrestler Cody Rhodes is guest starring, and there was over in the WWE a big to-do to him between him and his wrestler persona, Stardust and Stephen Amell. And here he's guest starring on Arrow. Now, in real life, apparently those two guys are apparently close friends. It's certainly not the worst performance by a wrestler that I've ever seen in a superhero story. It just doesn't particularly stand out. I mean, this character of Samson is very run-of-the-mill, cut and dry. There's nothing terribly interesting about him. And if you're not really interested in wrestling, which I'm not, him being played by some well-known wrestler and the drug introduced in this episode, Stardust, is that wrestler's wrestling handle. But as far as gimmicky things in episodes go, I've certainly seen far worse. I kind of wish the whole thing of knocking him to the vat of the chemicals hadn't been so blatantly cribbed from Batman, but okay, we're just going to go with this. And I definitely like how Arrow ultimately took him down. Just really like, yeah, it doesn't matter if you can't feel pain or you're super strong. You still need tendons to be able to do anything worth a damn. So I did like that. That sort of thinking really is something I really appreciate. One of the things I often try to do in my reviews is sort of point out the little things in logic that sometimes occur to me when I'm watching these episodes. It's like, if you'd just done this could have solved that problem in about 5 minutes. So yeah, I like that the show kind of did a little bit of a nod to that. And I always like it when superheroes, particularly those who don't have powers, find clever ways to take down people who do have powers and are much more formidable physically or whatever than they are. Let's see, what else do we have to talk about? Some interesting stuff going on with Diggle this episode. Like most people, I was just shocked all the hell to see Lawton sitting there in that cell, and I'm like, why in the name of God would they put Diggle in a cell with this guy? I mean, that seems like a really, really bad choice of cellmates. And then, of course, we ultimately realize that this is just like a manifestation of Diggle's guilt over killing his brother. And, I mean, that stuff where he says to Lila, like, look, I'm innocent, but I deserve to be here for killing my own brother. I mean, that's harsh, man. That's harsh. Diggle is being way too hard on himself. Then again, you kill your own brother, even if he was a bad dude who was threatening your family, that's still going to haunt you. And it's always nice to see Lila around again. I'm really interested to see. I hope they get their chance to sort of do a little bit more with her this season because she's a very interesting character. And I do want to explore a little bit more about what's kind of happened now that they have a son instead of a daughter. And the idea of her going to Oliver for help busting Dig out of the military prison. Well, that's definitely something very cool. And actually, quite reminiscent of the stuff you see in Suicide Squad. Went down to the local library recently and noticed that they had several collections of like the classic John Ostrander Suicide Run from like the late Suicide Squad run from like the 1980s. So I've been picking them up and reading them, and yeah, busting into prisons to rescue people is definitely one of their things. I just finished a story where they broke into this prison in the Soviet Union to rescue this dude, Nemesis. And they got into a big fight with the Justice League International, and like, the Rocket Reds were a part of it. I mean, it was pretty crazy stuff. And it's also kind of fun to go back and read these old comics just to sort of look back on the time they were written and sort of see what was going on in people's heads and in society at that time. And America, 1988, an interesting time that is thankfully long past. Let's put it that way. Let's see, what else? I definitely did like the whole thing with Felicity's, guilt over what happened with Haven Rock, and pointing out to her, it's like, look, you know better than anybody how well keeping secrets around here tends to work out, and she's just like, nope, 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 nope. And then ultimately she comes around and tells Rory, her hand in the destruction of his hometown, and he just kind of wanders off, and yeah, I mean, that's a pretty natural reaction. I mean, the guy's in shock. He's got to need some time to wrap his head around that. But I think it's ultimately going to work out for the best. Rory seems like a pretty nice guy. And I love that little banter moment he had with Mr. Terrific, where he goes, "Oh, hey, man, I like your mask." And I will say, I was genuinely impressed. I mean, earlier there was a promo picture where you could sort of vaguely see Mr. Terrific wearing a mask in the background. Here we get to see it, and in the comics, because it's comics, you can't see the pupils in his eyes. And, okay, it's comics. Here, I was genuinely surprised by how well that mask seemed to work. It looked really, really pretty cool. And then they explained the whole fair play on his thing, and it being a nod, oddly enough, to a wrestler named Terry Sloan. Of course, Terry Sloan was the original Mr. Terrific. And here they're then turning it into the name of somebody that Curtis had idolized when he was younger. And explain, yeah, this guy was sort of like, yeah, I'm so good, I don't even need to do anything dirty or underhanded to beat you. Again, that really keeps in play with what Mr. Terrific believes in, which is, of course, fair play. It's like, everybody deserves a fair shake, is kind of his thing. I mean, that he believed in that. I mean, I even remember reading the story. I can't remember where it was. I think it was like the JSA comics or something that just showed how the original Terry Sloan died. And I mean, he's even said with his dying breath, like, yeah, I'll believe in fair play always. Which, I mean, was a nice one. Nice note for him to go out on. Let's see. Nothing particular to say about Artemis this episode. Now, they did do some nice growth with Renee this episode, where, he F's up, and, he even flat out says, like, look, okay, I get it now. And he's like, all right, I understand now why Oliver was doing all of this stuff. And he is sincere. Renee is one of those guys that has to learn things the hard way, but he got there. He got to the point where he needed to be. Now, it's unfortunate that all this other stuff had to happen first. But in all fairness, Oliver really should have listened to him. And when Renee said, like, look, I've got a pretty good chances that I can find out where this is. And they just pointed out to Oliver, it's like, you made this whole thing about them needing to trust you. Now you need to trust them. And I definitely love that bit where, they're making fun of Renee for wearing a hockey mask. And Oliver goes, I think it's cool. And that's, of course, Stephen Amell playing Casey Jones in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie, which I haven't seen. Honestly, Stephen Amell was probably the only reason I would ever watch that movie. Just because, Michael Bay has... he's Michael Bay, man. He's Michael Bay, right? Let's see. What else do we need to talk about? I definitely did like what they're doing with Thea here. Her rather noticeable mistake of giving Quentin Lance the job without even talking to Oliver about it, and then, basically telling that reporter, it's like, oh, I made that decision, not Oliver. Well, that goes about as well as, doing some trust, putting that level of trust in a reporter in this day and age does. And it completely blows up in Thea's face. And to her credit, she immediately says, like, look, okay, I'm going to resign. I'm going to try and do this right thing here, which, under the circumstances, would have been the right thing. But I really love that moment where Oliver stood up there and really made that great speech about, like, look, the buck stops with me. Ultimately, I'm responsible for the decisions that the people under me make. And this is both true for him as the mayor and as Green Arrow. And again, he brings Lance out there demonstrating his trust in them. I mean, funny that nobody's pointing out everybody's problem is like that Lance is known to have problems with alcohol, but not that this is like the father of his dead ex-girlfriend and the father of a vigilante. Yeah, that kind of strikes me as that those things would be sort of issues. But, hey, comics, right? We're also introduced to Adrian Chase this episode, and of course, if you're familiar with the comics, you know who this guy is and what is in store for his character. And I think it promises to be pretty interesting. Chase is not a character I'm super familiar with. I think I've only ever read like a handful of things with him in it, so I really don't have a good read on his character. I did like how they did mention Oliver at one point tried to buy some Vertigo. That was a nice little tip of the hat to the past episodes. And I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but there was one scene where Oliver and Chase are walking down the hall, and Chase is wearing this kind of conservative sort of grayish suit and these brown shoes. And the shoes stick out so much. And the only reason this really jumps out to me is that there was this one time back in college, I was attending a lecture for a class, and with a bunch of other people from my class. And this one guy, I can't even remember what the dude was talking about, but he was wearing a gray suit and he's wearing these brown shoes. And the entire time I'm listening to this guy talk, I'm like, why is he wearing those shoes? Those shoes do not go with that suit. And understand, I am not a fashionable person in any way, shape, or form. And if I can tell that you are wearing something that clashes horribly with the rest of your outfit, a blind person should be able to tell you that, your outfit clashes. And I remember we were talking about whatever it was this guy's speech was about in that class later on, and I happened to mention, it's like, yeah, I had a little bit of a hard time trouble concentrating on that guy just because I kept getting distracted by his shoes. No, it wasn't me. It was another person in the class, and I said, oh, thank God. I thought I was the only one. And there were like 4 other people in the class who had the exact same problem. So, yes, choose your shoes carefully, people. Choose your shoes carefully. Let me see. Oh yeah, we do learn that we do get to see Oliver find out that somebody out there is gunning for him and has gone so far as to threaten Anton Church, making sure it's like, oh no, dude, I'm the one who gets to kill Green Arrow. Now he doesn't know that it's Prometheus yet, so we'll have to see. But all in all, yeah, this was a good episode. I really did enjoy this one, and there's just there's a lot of balls in the air right now, which is, we're only 3 episodes in, but a lot of stuff is going on, and it seems like we are definitely going to be in for a very interesting season. So, with that said, folks, I'm going to call it here. As always, please comment, rate, subscribe, and of course you can follow me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi. Also, please join me on Tumblr at Jedi Reviewer. Until next time, take care and have a good one.